Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm not continuing, I'm starting, sorry, my read along for Scum Villian Self-Saving System Volume 3. I'm very nervous. I probably should have looked up where we left off with the previous novel. Oops, that was not very smart of me. But yeah, we're gonna be starting the new volume today. I'm hopeful that maybe, if I'm lucky, I won't cry as much in this volume as I did with the last Urha volume. But who knows, like, I probably shouldn't put too much hope in that. So, for anyone who is new here, basically I do a read along and then on the hour I take about a 10-minute break and then we resume for more or less another hour, like actually more or less 50 minutes, but until the end of the next hour. Hi! Um, Bokuris, hi! So, yeah, that is more or less it. I have my tea, well, actually my coffee and my water here. And yeah, then we're just gonna take a quick break. And also, I think that's more or less it. I'm so disappointed because someone I know is currently in America and they asked me like, oh, are there any of those books that you want me to get while I'm here? And I'm like, I wish I could ask you, but he's coming back on Thursday, and Case File Compendium, which I know I'm gonna struggle to get my hands on here because South Africa is terrible when it comes to um, international shipping and things like that. I know for a fact I'm gonna struggle to get it, and if he just could have only come back on Monday, it would have been perfect because then he could have gotten it for me. But now I'm gonna have to try and figure something else out. So luckily, like we have to finish up a few other books before we get to Case File Compendium. So I'm not in a specific rush. It would have been so perfect. Okay, so let me quickly open up while we are here. Let me just. I still have my slip. Where is it? Oh, please tell me someone. The horror I just experienced. I thought for a moment someone had accidentally stapled the slips into the book. Um, like, no reasonable person should do that, but you never know. Yeah, no, I heard BAB is rough. Like, Kekta basically was just like, if you thought Urha was terrible, good luck with this one. I hope that you do okay with it. So I'm basically terrified. We'll see how this goes. Was it Kickstarter? It might not have been Kickstarter. I'm not 100% sure. But someone was like, "Good luck." So yeah, we'll see. But like, I've really loved Meat Bun's writing, so I'm just willing to put myself through that torture potentially. We shall see if I live to regret it. Okay, I think we can more or less start. Let me just quickly appreciate the art for a second here because it is glorious, as always, in case anyone just wanted to get another look at this. Oh, excuse me. Oopsie. Look at the two of them on a sword flying through the sky together. Okay, okay, let's focus. So we are technically on page 9, the start, chapter 14, house arrest. That doesn't sound terrifying at all. Okay, also I'm hoping slash assuming that the audio is okay. If not, please let me know, but everyone's silence on the matter. I'm just assuming that the audio is okay. Okay. A wide stone corridor connected the rift between the two realms. Pair after pair of torches stretched endlessly into the distance, and the deepest reaches were cast in a forbidding gloom. The style of the murals lining both sides of the corridor and the ominous atmosphere made clear that this was Lorvingher's headquarters in the demon realm. Oh, I think I might remember where we left off, maybe? After the rift closed, Lorvingher slowly released his iron grip on Shen Jingque. Shen Jingque stood straight and dusted off his sleeve, not saying a word. Neither of them had anything to say. Keeping their eyes straight ahead, they walked, one in front and one behind. Their footsteps made not a breath of sound, and the atmosphere was stiff and cold. The forks in the corridor of the underground palace slowed Lobingher by not even a hair's breadth. After a path full of twists and turns, the scene suddenly opened before their eyes. Architecture in the demon realm was mostly entrenched underground in, in excavated subterranean caves, never exposed to the sun, moon, or stars. This area, however, broke through the ground overhead, allowing sunlight to pierce the interior and lend it quite a bit of life. Upon closing, upon crossing through the door, Shen Jingque found the furnishings and arrangement of the room quite familiar. In fact, it was very similar to the bamboo house on Qingjing Peak. Shen Jingque was filled with an inexplicable fury. He really wanted to ask Lobinghe, "Is there any meaning to this? Arranging the scene and props like we're acting on stage, dumping me in this little pen, pretending like nothing ever happened? Do you want to continue the little domestic play from your dream realm of a loving master and disciple?" Okay, yeah, so that's where we left off. Damn. Acting pathetic and pitiful one moment to make Shen Qingque overflow with sympathy, then slapping him across the face and telling him it was all an act in the next. What was real? What was fake? He wasn't so perceptive that he could see through to Lobingher's real thoughts. How much was honest and how much insincere? Um, Bingham wants to play house. Indeed. It kind of seems like it. While Shen Qingque brooded to himself, Lobinghe walked a step closer to him. A few days earlier, Shen Qingque couldn't have gotten away from Lobinghe fast enough, retreating 3 steps for every one he took. Now he didn't want to do that sort of thing anymore. Retreating would make him look too much like a respectable woman kidnapped by a ruffian, too much like a affected bashfulness. Even as a dragon swimming in shallow waters or a tiger dropping onto the plains, if he were to shamelessly if you were so shamelessly as to describe sorry if he were so shameless as to describe himself as such, he could still scrounge up his last iota of elegance and prudent poser skills. So he wouldn't sink to such a thoroughly unsightly state. But he was inevitably tense, his heart stretched as taut as a bowstring, his fingers cold, and his eyelid twitched. And how perceptive Lobingher was. He took another step forward. "Shizun, what do you think I'm going to do to you?" "I cannot guess," Shen Qingque said sincerely. He would never dare randomly guess at Lobingher's intentions ever again. As reality proved over and over, he was light years off the mark every time. Lobingher reached out his right hand. Shen Qingque didn't move an inch, but his gaze was glued to those fingertips, following their whole trajectory. That hand was slender and unadorned. It didn't look like the hand of a young lord of the demon race who had already taken countless lives, but rather one whose master had been born to pluck strings. His hand to burn incense and bathe in snow. It slid faintly over Shinjinchu's cheek, a barely discernible brush against his skin. Then it landed on his throat. Oh, great! Just when I was like getting vaguely excited, and then we have that. Shinjinchu didn't know whether he was mistaken, but this hand seemed to press exactly against one of the major arteries of his neck. His throat bobbed imperceptibly. But Lobingho pulled his hand away. The next time he opened his mouth, it was impossible to read his emotions. My blood no longer responds to my beckoning. This little... I don't even know what to call him because I don't want to be too harsh because I still love him, but the fact that he's so willing to potentially abuse the power he has over Shen Qingqiu does kind of like rub me the wrong way. So when he had touched Shen Qingqiu's skin just now, it had been to probe the suppressed heavenly demon's blood in Shen Qingqiu's body. It looks like in these few days, Shizun has had a fortuitous encounter, said Lo Binghe. So what are you going to do? Shen Qingqiu asked. Make me drink it again? Is that even possible? I feel like he's going to be more demon blood than Shen Qingqiu by the end of it. You'll run if you drink it. You'll run if you don't. It's the same either way. I'd prefer not to give Shizun another reason to loathe me. In front of the others, he had left not a bitter face for Shen Qingqiu, but in private he suddenly became polite and courteous. There was no concise way to express what Shen Qingqiu felt about this. Shizun, please stay here for the time being. If you are willing, you may go wherever you wish within the underground palace. Lo Binghe continued. I have left some people outside, but they will not enter this room. If you want for anything, simply summon them. How considerate, said Chen Qingqiu. Lo Binghe fixed his gaze on him for a time, then said, Is there anything you want? Chen Qingqiu said, I can ask for anything, except freedom, probably. Um, Yeah, I like the pairing in the book, but in the fanfic, I'm migrate to Liu Xin. I find the relationship list forced on Shinji. Mm, I'm very, generally speaking, I'm very much the kind of person who sticks to the original pairing. Um, but I mean, I do feel like I can see why some people might gravitate towards that ship. Mm. Looked as if he never expected Changing Chair to make this sort of request. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I missed probably a very important paragraph if I have to go off the context. Robinger nodded. In a sudden spat of malice, Shen Qingqiu bluntly said, When I ask to see you as little as possible, it will be best if I never see you at all. Look, I get it, but damn if there ever was a slap in the face. Oh. Rubinho looked as if he had never expected Changing to make this sort of request. His face paled. At the sight of this, Changing felt a flash of a schadenfreude, but at the same time he also felt a stab of pain, like he had been pricked by a needle. Perhaps it was because, in the past, he had never said anything so scathing and vicious to anyone. The color took a long time to return to Lobingho's face. Shizun once asked me if I wanted to become strong. When I asked you that question, I believe I also told you that the purpose of becoming strong is to protect, not to plunder and slaughter, said Shen Jingque. No, Lavinia said in a dull tone. You had it wrong. Not everything. Not everything Shizun taught was correct. Only after becoming the strongest can one keep the people they want to have securely in their palms. Ugh. I finally understand. Waiting for Shizun to come himself won't do. Oh, mixed feelings about that. He clenched his fist, forcefully twisting a vicious smile onto his face. So now that I've caught you, Shizun had better not think of escaping ever again. After this devil incarnate exited the scene, Shenjing Chu pinged the system. Are you there, 2.0? It kind of sounds like he's talking to like 007 or something. I know it's not, but the system provides comprehensive 24-hour support and a user-friendly online service, only when it's convenient for you, it seems. Ugh, comprehensive is enough. Forget about the user-friendly. What are my current point values? B points. 1,330. Successfully removed laden with landmines tag from the proud immortal demon way. Unlocked achievement rather a lot of things to roast. That's hilarious. Um, Keep up the good work. We look forward to your next mystery achievements unlock. Satisfaction points 3,840. Anger points 1,500. Oh no. Heartbreak points 4,500. That's intense. Continued effort required. Very good. Though his great effort, grave digging, this stupidly cliche stallion novel had finally seen some improvement in terms of V points. Though rather a lot of things to roast wasn't a favorable evaluation, it was certainly a few ticks above laden with landmines, right? Also, the anger points weren't the heaven-defying value he had feared, though the heartbreak points were high enough that he felt like he had been pricked by another needle. Mm-hmm. Just reflect a little bit on that. Averting his gaze, Shenjin said, with so many satisfaction points, can I exchange them for something? You can exchange them for a system feature upgrade. I don't know if you should put your money into that. It doesn't seem like the system will do you any good. Shenjin mood improved a bit. Okay, do the upgrade. With a ringing notification sound, the system bashfully began to download the upgrade package. Shenjin had a thought, then asked, right, what's the name of the sorry, featured. Why am I struggling? Featured upgrade again. Small scenario pusher, luxury edition. Shenjing decisively jabbed at the cancel button on the download window. Crap, it's already downloaded. And it cost 3,000 satisfaction points. I'm leaving a bad review. You should have known better. This system has never done you any good. As he aggressively spammed the system with a laundry list of complaints, Shen Jingque began his life under house arrest. Roving He was busy uniting the northern border demons in Mobei Jun's territory, and Xia Hualing seemed to have officially initiated her grand undertaking to backstab her dad. Literally. In short, in the near future, Lo Binghe had plenty of enemies to obliterate and allies to rope in. He was likely busy with the work that he couldn't extricate himself from, and for that reason he never showed his face again. Or maybe it was because that first day a couple of harsh words from Shen Qingque had shattered his glass heart upon the ground, and he was too afraid to show his face. Shen Qingque tried his best to tear his thoughts away from the latter possibility. I kind of like the idea of him stewing in that a little bit because it shows that it also is important to him and it's not just loathing her who has his heart in this in a sense. Small scenario, not suspicious at all. Mm-mm. No, not at all, not at all. And I mean, the last small scenario pusher that I remember specifically, his robe got ripped in half or something like that. So I understand his concern. Either way, if loving her continued to leave him alone, wasn't this the exact days spent idling away to a ripe old age lifestyle he had been pursuing this whole time? Furthermore, loving Ke didn't act like the characters in the strange novels that Shen Qingqu's younger sister had liked to read in his previous life. He didn't shackle Shen Qingque to the bed with iron chains, blindfolded and gagged, or stripped him naked and beat him or anything. What kind of novels is your sister reading? Damn! That sounds yeesh. Like frickin' Erha 2.0. You'll never be unhappy once you learn to be satisfied with what you have. Might as well just go with the flow. Nonsense. If Shen Qingque could honestly comfort himself that way, he'd have nothing for brains. He didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. He wouldn't be falling over himself with gratitude at the slightest hint of good treatment. A fortunate lifestyle needed to be built by one's own hands, not acquired by way of charity, understand? After failing to brainwash himself, Shen Qingqu's fingers tightened, and a page of the book he was reading tore in his hands. At the same time, a louder sound of cracking bamboo came from outside the window. He lifted the curtain and saw a group of demon servants hurrying about. Poking his head outside, he asked, "What are you doing?" "Master Shin, what brings you outside?" The servant had an extremely enthusiastic and deferential attitude, completely unlike someone speaking to a person under house arrest. He smiled and said, "We're planting bamboo over there." Shen Qingque started. "Bamboo? You should recognize the human realm plant. It's hard to plant here in the demon realm and won't grow properly, but our Lord is determined to cultivate it here, so everyone just has to find a way." Oh, great. I feel bad for them. Mm. Observing the servant's strength and the way he moved, Shen Qingque knew he was definitely no ordinary manual laborer. The demons Luobing He had recruited from the major demon tribes' fighting forces were doubtlessly their cream of the crop. To make these martial experts do odd jobs was categorically a waste of resources, and that wasn't even the end of it. For the first 2 days, Shen Qingque had neither the mood nor the appetite, but on the third day he lost interest in uh, Inidia, I never know how to pronounce that, and gave a few reserved instructions to, i.e., flirt with the pretty pale and busty demon maid, calling for a meal to be delivered. Before he had taken even 2 bites, he lost the will to continue. The maid tilted her head. "What is it, Master Shin?" she asked with a grin. "Is the flavor not good?" The flavor was good. Very good. It was precisely because it was too good, an extremely familiar kind of good, one that Shen Qingque hadn't tasted for years, that he could not continue. Why am I such a sucker for those kinds of moments? Like, I get it, they're in a bad spot right now, but just, I'm always so happy so easily. I'm so easily satisfied. Damn, okay. Um, he put down his chopsticks and asked, "Did you make this, miss?" The maid giggled. "How could that be? I only know how to kill and eat the meat fresh. Ooh. Or wait for it to rot before eating. I don't know these human recipes, with all their fire and rice, oil and salt. Far too annoying. Hell." So this beautiful, clear-voiced demon, with her sweet, orchid-scented breath, was a lover of rotten flesh? Mm-hmm. Great, we love that. Shen Jingque could just tell that making this girl clean tables and sweep the floor every day was a profound debasement. He figured that her abilities were probably more suited to slaying her enemies with a set of broad axes as opposed to chopping melons and vegetables, and it was very likely she had once held that exact job. "Then who made it?" Shen Qingque asked flatly. This I dare not say," said the maid. "My lord would definitely kill me if I did. I mean, that's kind of an answer in and of itself, but okay. Dare not say? Would he be somehow unable to taste the truth as long as she didn't?" True. Shen Qingque put down the chopsticks, then picked them up again. What was that saying again? The hand that had received its The hand that has received is hesitant, the mouth that has been fed is weak. Shen Qingque fretted hard over whether, after finishing this meal, he could still self-righteously express dissatisfaction with Lobing He. But in the end, the cook was too familiar with Shen Qingque's tastes and eating habits, and in the midst of his fretting, he unknowingly managed to clear his plate. Oh no! The maid cleared the dishes and left with sweeping hips, covering a smoke with her hand. Not long after she left, the curtains lifted and a person wobbled their way in. At the sight of this face, a vicious feeling sprang from Shen Qingque's gut. Greeting him with a spiritual blast, he yelled, "Airplane shooting towards the sky!" There were a few expletives, but I'm not going to repeat them. He's getting the full wife treatment. That is indeed accurate, I think. Hamster bro is here, oh goodness. Do I even want to know? I'm sure I'll find out eventually. Shen Qingque frantically raised his hands to block. Not Shen Qingque. Shang Qinghua frantically raised his hands to block, raising a still sheathed sword between them to absorb the attack. Hey, 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 don't! 1,000 times don't! Good Master Shen, you can't just mess around with whoever you please now. If you mess around with me, well, it wouldn't end well for me, but don't think that guy would let you off easy either. You sold me out, Shen Qingque roared. What about our friendship? What of being comrades from the same hometown? Since when did we have a friendship? Unless it was a love-hate relationship all along. No, are we about to find out that, wait, maybe he did know already and I've just forgotten, but otherwise my thought was that maybe we're about to find out that Shang Qinghua knew Shen Qingque was his, like, black fan all along. Unless it was a love-hate relationship all along, Shang Qinghua retorted. Ah, stop that. It hurts. What else could I have done but sell you out? That's esteemed Master Luo, okay? Even if I hadn't sold you out, he was about to guess anyway. Why would I take an extra beating for no reason? So admirable. That would have been pointless, so I chose to confess for a lenient sentence. Shen Qingque was shocked by the matter-of-fact shamelessness of the reply. In this moment of inattention, Shang Qinghua strode over and sat down at the table with a lift of his hem. He slapped the sword he was holding down onto the table. Let's not talk about this anymore. I was ordered to deliver something to you. When Shen Qingque got a better look at the sword, his hand was already reaching out to touch it. It was the very sword that had been shattered to pieces by his collapse in spiritual energy when he had self-detonated. The misfortunate Shuya. How the hell did he manage to figure that out? No, they had that confrontation at three-fourths of volume 2. Yeah, I thought maybe that was the case, but I couldn't remember for sure. Shen Qingque Shen Qingque retained an emotional attachment to Shuya, and as soon as he grasped his former sword in hand, he had no more attention to devote to beating up Shang Qinghua. Drawing the blade from its sheath, it was as pure white and snow-bright as it had ever been, slender and elegant. Its broken pieces had been seamlessly reconnected, and it overflowed with spiritual energy, with not a hairline fracture to be seen. That's interesting. To the side, Shang Qinghua let out a squirrely laugh and rubbed his hands, clicking his tongue. Ah yeah, I really never thought that the storyline would warp to this point. Remarkable, truly remarkable. The stallion novel protagonist you wrote turned gay, said Shin Qingque. Shouldn't you be angry? goodness. It doesn't matter. Shang Qinghua. Sincerely. Either way, the one he's got his eye on isn't me. Shen Qingqi gave him a cordial middle finger and then looked back down at to polish his sword. Oh my word, the way this is written, I just love. Shang Qinghua gave him a thumbs up. Really, you don't need to be so pessimistic. You have good prospects for the future. Quite good prospects. Those golden thighs, they're thick and sturdy. Very reliable. Oh my word. I mean, the problem now, good sir, is this could turn into a tragedy. You don't know anymore because your book clearly isn't what you once wrote. The fact that Shuya had only just been returned to Shen Qingqi's hands and he couldn't bear to use it for filthy things. He really had the mind to slice off a chunk of that object between Shang Qinghua's thighs. Oh my word. Not in the mood for this buffoonery, his face grew serious again. Since you confessed for leniency, I'll ask you, did you ever establish any settings for the characters of Tianlang Jun? Why are you asking about Bing Ge's dad? Shang Qinghua replied, no real reason. I just thought it strange how you didn't write a whole thesis on the protagonist's father. I know for a fact that you can crank out 1,000,000 words by adding another wife. You could definitely serialize for 3 more years by adding a father. Shang Qinghua's ears perked up. You really have an eye for this. Undeniably, a faithful reader of mine. I can tell you that originally I was writing from a grand outline where Bing Ge's dad was the final boss. But as I wrote, my computer died. I lost my outline and I forgot a ton of the details. And back then, everyone in the comment section was saying that they wanted to see other plot lines, right? The one where Bing Ge bravely conquered 100 flowers, do you understand? A whole 100 holy flower spirits who had from their birth never laid eyes on a man, and all of them virgins. Cucumber bro, how I suffered while writing the chapter of the 100 flower buds. Says first mass blooming. Oh no, that sounds absolutely awful if I'm being honest. And still you roast me. Oh, the tragedy, the pains of our hero. I wonder if MXCX sees herself in Hamster Bro. Maybe. I think she definitely would have added some things in that might reflect. So, this is her first novel, so she probably didn't have any prior experience to these kinds of, you know, people trolling as they read and things like that. But she did a very good job of writing it, so maybe she was the Shen Qingque to another author's Shang Qinghua. I don't know. Shen Qingque responded with silence. At long last, he knew where all of those plot holes had come from. So he went to write the harem subplots and decided to leave the more serious plot lines of Binger's dad full of holes. Actually, leaving it full of holes was no big deal, right? As long as the readers were satisfied, said Shang Qinghua. All the maidens who should have been bedded were bedded, and all the cannon fodder who should have been killed were killed. Pursuing another plotline that everyone might not have been interested in would have been grueling and thankless. I needed I needed to make a living. If the subscribers jumped ship, I wouldn't be able to feed myself, Cucumber Bro. Net read net writers really don't have it easy. That's interesting. I do feel like the moment you have an income depending on something that isn't like set in stone, it can be easier to be influenced, I feel. Um yeah, the diamonds and the plot and the haters and the money because the girl has to eat too. Yep, very true. Except airplane shooting towards the sky had had too much fun cutting down those outlines, and the system's strict sense of responsibility was making Shen Qingque fill all the holes Shang Xinhua had dug while abandoning his artistic principles. In fact, I was also forced against my will. Shang Qinghua continued, in my original outline, Tianlang Jun had purer blood than Bing Ge. His martial power was stronger. He'd earned his fame earlier. He was just more badass all around, a proud and carefree wanderer of the three realms, standing far above the common sort or whatever, and he even had a deeply moving tragic backstory. Very Gary Stu, right? Are you even allowed to use that word when you have invented loving her? What if the readers thought he was stealing Bingo's spotlight and started protesting? What would I do then? You know, Bingo's fans are very vicious. Vicious when fighting and also vicious when giving tips. Oh goodness. Shen Qingque face palmed. Hearing this confession from Great Master Airplane, he was starting to worry. If Tian Langjun really had been released, would Lo He even be able to defeat him? But looking at it from another angle, maybe it would be possible to use the father to curb the son. Shen Qingque immediately snuffed out that dangerous line of thought. When it came to an opponent you knew nothing about, where even their moral alignment was in question, stupidly attempting to use them could result in you dying without even knowing the reason why. Yes, thank you. That is very true. So the conclusion was still rock solid, unchanging even after 10,000 years. Great Master, airplane flying towards the sky, truly was the genius of generation, a man of unparalleled literary brilliance. May I never encountered this level of sarcasm with my own work. Oh goodness, I would be terrified if someone was this vicious with me. Shen Qingque slapped the table. Be straight with me. List out everything you planned but didn't write when you changed the outline. The important things first. He just said he doesn't remember. I don't think this is gonna go well. I didn't know what's important or not, but there is a part that has to do with you, Shang Qinghua stammered, or more precisely, that has to do with Shen Jie. Before, I was always embarrassed to say, oh no. Upon hearing this, the hair on the back of Shen Qingque's neck stood up in horror. Knowing airplane flying towards the sky's nasty tendencies, it'd be a wonder if he had given Shen Qingque a normal backstory. Just tell me, he said, holding his head in his hands. I can take it. Are you sure? Xiang Jinghua embarked on an impassioned explanation of his artistic concepts. I had a lot of ideas for the character of Shen Qingque. I had hoped to portray him as a well-rounded, three-dimensional character. He's scum, he's wretched, but he has reason to be scum, as well as a not scummy side. But the readers didn't really buy it. As soon as I inserted signs of his development, they started griping in the reviews, so I saw the winds weren't blowing the right direction, and immediately turned him into a tropey and wretched person. But really, oh no. Shen Qingque had turned his full attention to the explanation when suddenly the maids outside the room chorused in a respectful tone, "My lord." This is not gonna go well, but also now I'm really curious about Shen Qingque's actual backstory and things like that. This is really the worst timing you could have come. At this, Shang Qinghua's expression transformed and he jumped a meter off the floor like his butt had been lit on fire. Rushing towards the back door, he shouted over his shoulder, "That man of yours is here. Let's do it later. Wait, I mean, let's chat later. Thank you for clarifying. We don't know what would have happened in Lo Binghe's head." "Don't go!" Shang Qingque futilely reached out after him. "Screw your let's chat later." Cutting off at this sort of point is even more unbearable than that cheesy cliche where the eyewitness at death's door says, "The killer was," and then coughs up a mouthful of blood and dies. The self-awareness, I cannot deal. I see where this is going. Oh goodness, okay. The green curtain lifted, and loving her stooped to enter the room. Shang Qingque immediately assumed an unruffled expression. However, because his very important and serious discussion had been cut off, he looked rather displeased. Loving her's gaze alighted first on the Shuya sword in his hand before shifting upwards. After a brief silence, Loving her was still the one who spoke first. It seems that Shizun has not slept at all these past few days. Speaking of rest, Shen Jingqi immediately thought of dreams. Speaking of dreams, he couldn't help but remember all the embarrassing things he had done in the dream realm to console Loving her. Shen Jingqi rubbed his nose and said, "If I could sleep without dreaming, I would be happy to." Loving her's eyelashes lowered slightly. After standing there for a while, he seemed to gather his courage before his next words stiffly left his mouth. "I'm nervous." Oh, okay. Although I hid some things from Shuzun in the dream realm, none of the feelings I revealed there were false. Shen Qingqi sighed. "Loving her, at present, I really don't know which of your words are true and which are false," he said honestly. "Therefore, don't bother saying such things." This hurts. Oh, frick. The loving her in that dream had indubitably been much cuter, even though that dream protagonist was still this protagonist. His looks then, with his insides all twisted up in misery, on a face that wasn't half bad, at that, left even a straight guy like Shen Qingqi with no option but to pity on him. But the more pity Shen Jingzhe had felt then, the more painful his face had been slapped after. Lobing had claimed that the events in Jinlan City were not his doing, and at that time Shen Jingzhe had believed him about 9/10 of the way. Now he didn't dare entertain even 1/10 of that belief. That is sad. Blood rushed to Lobingher's face, reddening his cheeks. Lifting his eyelids, he said coldly, "Shizun's only concern is being angry that I deceived him, but if I hadn't done so, I'm afraid I still wouldn't be able to speak a word to you." His fingers unconsciously clenched tighter and tighter on Shinmore's hilt, until his knuckles were white with the strain. A faint red glow extended from his pupils to even the rims of his eyes. "As if Shizun never deceived me. You said you didn't approve of assigning much importance to the difference between races, yet in the blink of an eye you changed your tune and refused to admit it. For the 5 years after your death at Huaye City, I summoned your soul thousands of times, failing with every try, and trying again with even every failure, but I never let my hopes grow cold. Despite this, I never suspected that Shizun would scorn me to this extent." Ah, this is painful. To have already returned to the world, yet coldly looked on as I lost my mind and made a fool of myself. At the end of Lobingher's tirade, his final syllables were somewhat unsteady, the pitch of his voice rising in what could have been fury or exasperation. "Of course, Shizun has abandoned reason to denounce me as a devil incarnate now. I've wrung disaster across the land, but why is it that even when I'm done nothing at all, I was still shunned like a snake or a scorpion? You've deceived me twice, and I've deceived you twice. Isn't that entirely fair?" Even though he felt that the 1-for-1, 2-for-2 logic was not even a fraction of the mark, Shen Jingzhi still couldn't help but say, "You really cling to your grudges." Lobingher sneered. "I'm afraid Shizun has never seen what I'm like when I really hold a grudge against someone." His face gradually settled into a grim expression, and he closed some of the distance between them. "But what if I said that when it comes to Shizun, I only cling to memories, not grudges? I probably wouldn't be believed, would I?" Ah, this is the thing that breaks my heart about Lobing her, is he really can't win where Shen Qingque is concerned, at least not at the moment, it feels like. As his shadow lobbing his figure cast increased in size, Shen Qingque hurriedly said, "Compose yourself. If you want to talk, then talk properly. Don't suddenly change attitudes and don't come so close." And that was a thought, by the way. "Shizun, you can always compose yourself," Lobingher said in a low voice, "but I can no longer do the same." Shen Qingque hadn't fully processed what exactly was going on when, with a thud, his back began to burn. Wait, what? The next thing he knew, the two of them had already rolled onto the bed. Wait, what? It's been so long since I've sat on this bamboo bed. Holy hell. It's freaking hard. Shen Qingque yelled, "You insolent!" Lobingho pressed his lips and refused to speak. Just as Shen Qingque thought to kick him away, goosebumps erupted over his skin from head to toe. A hand had suddenly reached into his inner robe from the hem. Hold on. What? I'm gonna need another pillow. You've got to be kidding me. He violently jerked his knee up, but Lobingho caught it with a single hand, using his momentum to press it against the side of Shen Qingque's body. Wait, what? Shen Qingque internally yelled "crap" 100 times. He didn't want to be forced into this position where he was lying under another person with his legs spread eagle. He immediately snapped his torso upward. "I don't think that's the best idea." And with a well-timed burst of energy and a twist of his waist, flipped them over in a 180 reversal, pinning Lobingho under him. "Okay." Shuya unsheathed 3 inches, coldly pressing against Lobingho's throat. This was the first time in Shen Qingque's life that anyone had forced themselves on him, and he had subsequently been forced into a rage. "So you're trying to take advantage of your Shizun, How filial." He was indeed at someone's mercy now, but no one could expect him to quietly submit just like that. Lobingho's escape routes and the vital points on his neck were all at Shen Qingque's mercy, but his eyes were dazzlingly bright, not fearing the sharp blade at his neck in the slightest. He grabbed Shen Qingque's wrist with one hand, then braced the other one against the ground. With a vigorous lunge, he reversed their positions again. Of course, Shen Qingque wouldn't let him do as he wished and jabbed at the acupoint with Shuya's hilt. I don't think that's gonna work for some reason. After a few such exchanges, they had brawled themselves into a heap. They rolled off the bed, tumbling the whole way, white flashes and sparks exploding in every direction, spiritual and demonic energy churning in a confused fog, spiritual blasts flying at random. Shen Qingque had spent too long being a poser. He didn't know how long it had been since he had fought in such a crude manner. Only after the brawl reached its peak did Shen Qingque have a sudden realization. That's not right. This is a cultivation novel. Why the hell am I fighting with my bare hands? What sort of dumbass has a cannon he doesn't use? He immediately raised his hand, pumping it full of spiritual energy, and sent an earth-shattering punch towards Lobingho's lower abdomen. Lobingho took the blow bodily without making a sound. To tell the truth, Shen Qingque hadn't expected to truly hit Lobingho, but that didn't stop the punch from feeling extremely satisfying. It was like all the pent-up anger that had been building in him from the past few days had been smashed out along with it. Suddenly, the system chirped with a congratulations notice. I don't even know if I want to read what the congratulations is going to be, because I feel like it's going to make both me and Shen Qingque spit blood. But let's just take a moment. Thank goodness the novel is from Shen Qingque's POV. If it were from Binghe's perspective, it might be another. Hi, yeah, no, definitely. We would have had Moran 2.0 probably. That's the problem. He thinks his feelings gave him rights over Shen Qingque. Yeah. Okay. 10 more minutes before we take our break. Let's hope I can survive 10 more minutes without another pillow. Congratulations! Satisfaction points plus 500. Shen Qingque was utterly speechless. Loving her was really a tried and true masochist, the kind who was happy being roughed up. Hit him once and earn 500 satisfaction points. Even the system notification had been a lively and flirtatious emoji, and on top of that, it came with a never before seen pair of tildes. I don't know what that is. Shen Qingque had never met a greater weirdo in all the years of his life, and this weirdo was one he'd raised himself. Well, what does that say about you? Shen Qingque was bemoaning the failure of his me struggling with this word pedagogical results, but Lobinger wasn't playing anymore. He flipped his right hand and changing chair accidentally released the spiritual energy he had been holding. With a bang, it smashed a beautiful shaped hole in the ceiling. Dust drifted downward, blocked by Lobinger above him. Lobinger's hands tugged at Shenqing's outer robes, easily tearing them apart. Hit me all you want. You can't kill me either way. This disciple gladly accepts Shizin's instructions, he said, a smile on his face. This is sad, though. But a mournful tone seemed to hide behind that smile. Distracted from even how his clothes were being torn off, Shenqing's heart clenched, and he involuntarily stopped moving. But Lobinghe didn't give Shenqingche any more time to pity him. Suddenly a hand ripped open his inner robes and crept to his waist, skin to skin. Oh goodness, this is gonna be difficult to read, I feel. Shen Qingque went limp for a moment, then slammed his sword hilt into Lobinghe's forehead and with a thud. You beast! Lobinghe seemed to have given up on himself. If Shizun sees me as no better than a beast either way, I might as well live up to expectation. Shen Qingque wanted to laugh in anger, but suddenly his vision blurred. His body swayed, and Shu Ya crashed to the ground. There was something wrenching at him, like his whole soul was about to be pulled out of his body. He could only go stiff. Lobinger also stopped his movements, shocked. A mere moment later, Shenqing's head began to hurt like it was going to explode. I'm assuming that the guy whose blood is in Shenqing's system is trying to call him, in a sense. Countless shattered scenes flashed before his eyes at top speed, sometimes blank white, sometimes a pitch black mass, and sometimes he even saw vague human figures. His eardrums stung from the sharp ringing in his ears. Lobinger couldn't spare a moment for caution. He hurriedly vaulted into a sitting position and reached out to hold Shenqingche down, but he couldn't manage to keep him still. It was like a giant pair of hands were roughly dragging Shenqingche's brains and soul out of his body, and he held his head, rolling back and forth on the ground as he struggled. Something was screaming, stretching hands towards him from every direction, screeching and tearing at his soul. Shizun, I was just trying to scare you. Don't take it too seriously. What's wrong? Lobinger cried out in a panic. Shenqingche's body trashed back and forth in his embrace. Lobinger held him with one arm, hurriedly scanning his body with spiritual energy. And though there was no abnormalities, Shenqingche's screams were horribly shrill, as if a red-hot piece of iron had been poked right into his brain. Lobinger tried everything he could think of to no avail. As Shenqingche's pulse grew weaker and weaker, Lobinger began to tremble faintly, then more and more violently. In the end, he couldn't keep himself upright anymore, and he collapsed from his half-kneeling position until both his knees collided with the ground. Guards, he yelled. Everyone out. Every one of you, get in here. Ooh, okay, this is gonna be interesting. But it is also an interesting idea that the one person who's the biggest threat to loving her has control over the one thing that he cares the most about. I don't know how this is gonna work out. But also, I'm kind of secretly hoping that now that he gets to see the kind of pain that the blood, demon blood, can cause to Shen Qingqi, he'll realize that it's really scummy that he was willing to do that to Shen Qingqi as well. I sense a wife plot ahead. Very much so. Chapter 15. Holy Mausoleum. Shen Qingqi's eyes shot open. It was pitch dark. His heart raced, eardrums seeming to hammer alongside his pulse, in order to determine whether it was just so dark that he couldn't see his own hand in front of his face, or if he had in fact gone blind. Shen Qingqi really did stretch out his hand to test his vision. Is he back in his original body? The Holy Mausoleum. Okay, let's just see where this goes. Before he got very far, his fingertips hit a sturdy wall. Shen Qingqi began to slowly feel around. After a while, he had a basic sense of his surroundings. He was currently inside a cramped space. It seemed he had been placed in a rectangular stone box. He lightly patted the stone walls to find that they were ice cold, the material slick and smooth like marble. When he surveyed them with spiritual energy, he found that they weren't too thick, probably no more than 4 inches. He felt around some more, sucked in a breath, and held it, then abruptly struck out. With a rumble of spiritual energy, he landed a heavy blow in the center of the stone cover above him. After 3 strikes in a row, the darkness split apart into pieces along with the sound of shattering rock. Fresh air poured in. Shen Qingqi abruptly sat up and drew a few deep breaths before he discovered the air wasn't fresh at all. Instead, it was like underground air that had been sat stagnant for years, and it was extremely thin. When he looked down, he found he was lying in a coffin. This rectangular stone box was, it seemed, a finely sculpted stone casket, pure white like jade. Shen Qingqi placed a hand lightly on the edge of the coffin and leapt out. Looking around, he found he stood in a dimly lit stone room. The coffin, whose lid had been blasted, was placed on an altar in the center of the room, and disordered piles of dusty objects were strewn around the corners. Weapons, gemstones, books, bottles, and jars lay scattered about. The glint of blades and glow of jewels shone beneath the thick layer of dust, sending faint light flowing about the room. The walls around Shen Qingqi were painted with murals of demons in crazed revelry, surrounding him from all sides. The holy mausoleum of the demon race. This was Shen Qingqi's conclusion. Before he could digest this information, he involuntarily looked down and was struck down by another piece of information. His body wasn't the one grown from the sun, moon, dew, mushroom. There we go. This was Shen Qingqi's original body. The Holy Mausoleum purportedly housed the means by which to revive the dead, and it looked like this really wasn't hearsay. Given the situation, it was likely that someone had snuck Shen Qingqi's corpse into the Holy Mausoleum, then activated a soul-summoning array, yanking him away from his new body. Interesting. Who would do that but then also not kidnap his new body? Unless they're still waiting to kidnap it. Hmm. Liu Qingge? Why? I'm being too optimistic here. It might not even be a well-intentioned person. Okay. The Holy Mausoleum was a restricted area for the demon race. Generations of supreme rulers had been entombed there after their deaths. Anyone who entered without having reached this lofty position would die. But Shen Qingque had been brought inside as a corpse, and only after his soul returned to his body had he started breathing again. By essentially taking advantage of a loophole, he'd gained the chance to play tourist. What a way to phrase it! Shen Qingque tried and found that the flow of his spiritual energy was perfectly fine. Lobinghe said he had spent 5 years restoring the meridians of this body. This turned out to be true. As for the without a cure poison, Shen Qingque didn't feel any unresponsiveness at present, but he didn't know if its effect had been dispelled. Once a soul had been placed into a body created from a dew mushroom, the second that the soul was taken away, the body would quickly wither and die. Shen Qingque couldn't guess what sort of expression Lobinghe would have on his face, standing in front of that withered and dried up body of his. Now, now you're just making me feel bad for Lobinghe again. My goodness. But before his thoughts could drift, the system chirped with a notification. Gentle reminder, you have entered the advanced level plot scenario, the Holy Mausoleum. A plot hole filling quest has been issued. Please rise to the occasion and take the initiative. Great, that's not concerning at all. Shen Qingque gave an "Oh" and continued to crouch in place. Please rise to the occasion and take the initiative. Shen Qingque didn't move. Alert. Please rise to I know, off with you. What a pain in the ass. Shen Qingque exited the room, thinking back on the Holy Mausoleum subplot in the original novel as he walked. Residents in the demon realm were hidden beneath the earth while their mausoleums were built above ground. In short, all their customs were the complete opposite of the human realms. Not only was the mausoleum filled with layer upon layer of wicked mechanisms, there were also countless demonic beasts guarding the tombs, hidden in shadows. Ooh, that sounds very foreboding. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here for the 10-minute break, and then I will see you guys again at 12 past, because I think we've actually made a decent amount of progress. So, yeah, I shall see you guys again in 10 minutes. Okay, sorry for being late. I just almost forgot to get my second pillow, and I feel like I'm probably gonna be needing it. Before we get started again, would you guys just mind letting me know if the audio is still okay? Hopefully it should be, but you never know for sure. Oh goodness, it is so hot here, and tomorrow it's gonna be 35 degrees, and I'm just dying thinking of it because it hasn't cooled down one iota today, it feels like. Okay, sorry about that. And yes, I have my tea with me, so I guess I'm the weird one. Okay, let me just, ooh, goodness. Let me just make sure that everything is still working the way it's supposed to. Okay, and we are resuming on the top of page 32. Thank you. Okay, let us get going. If it weren't for the system's diabolical chattering, he'd have to be on drugs to try wandering around these tomb corridors. The corridors were extremely dark, but Changing Cheer didn't use the fire spell. He held his breath and silently walked onward. Not long after, he began to hear the slow and heavy sound of breathing. Oh, great! Or he called it breathing, but it was actually more like the gasps of the dying. Huh, even better. Shunting cheers stood still. They had shown up entirely too fast. From the darkness, a lone, rail-thin figure gradually emerged. Next, a second and third followed right behind, slowly drifting closer like wandering souls. These figures swayed thrice with every step, getting closer and closer, but Changing Cheer didn't make a sound. Turning sideways, he slowed his breaths as much as possible. Of all the demonic beasts guarding the tomb, these were one of the lowest level, with the highest encounter rates, blind corpses. Blind corpses were called blind, but in truth, they wanted for not a single eye. Instead, they had a few extra pairs, more than other monsters, all squished onto their faces. It made for an incredibly bizarre sight, and they would definitely make anyone with trypophobia ache with disgust. Oh, great! I sometimes wonder if MXTX doesn't have trypophobia because there's an awful lot of it appearing in her books, it feels like. Um, However, although they had a lot of eyes, the organs were basically useless. Most of the time, blind corpses were sightless even with their eyes open. Their effervescency, their efficiency, where the hell did I get that word? Dismal as they wandered and patrolled the holy mausoleum. Why would you put them as guards if they can't see? Okay, maybe we'll learn now. Though their eyes were both enormous and large, the organs were to a one very severely degenerated. However, these eyes were incredibly sensitive to light, and they could catch even the faintest reflected glow at top speed. Okay, that's probably why. As soon as a blind corpse caught sight of something, their manner would abruptly change, and they would instinctively launch a fierce attack at the source of their illumination. At that time, they would no longer move at a speed they were now, as they slowly wandered the corridors and lines. In short, monsters like this weren't frightening by themselves. What was frightening was a certain object that often appeared alongside them. Oh, great. As Shinjichu thought this, a blind corpse tottered close, and he sidestepped to avoid it. Suddenly, a faint flame began to burn amidst the darkness. This wisp of flame was a dim green. It glowed brighter and brighter until it illuminated the entire corridor with a vivid emerald hue. Those blind corpses about to brush past Shinjichu suddenly turned around. One on every face were embedded 4 or 5 pairs of giant bloodshot eyeballs. glaring straight at him where he stood just within reach. Last breath candles. Oh, great. Shen Qingque moved with extraordinary speed, and in the next second he had flashed to the end of the corridor. But no matter where he fled, a faint green light appeared alongside him, illuminating his figure with nowhere to hide. He was fast, but the blind corpses triggered by the light source were faster. A few blind corpses threw themselves at Shen Qingque, and he sent them flying. Last breath candles used the qi and breath of the living as fuel. As long as a living person or creature approached, they ignited on their own. The chi and breath, so even if he doesn't breathe, his chi will still activate it. Damn it. At first, they sounded like a random trinket that could be used to play tricks while traveling in the jungle, but when deployed together with blind corpses, the effect was devastatingly brutal. I can imagine. Think about it. If an intruder managed to get into the holy mausoleum, no matter where they went, they still had to breathe. Once they did, the candles ignited, and you couldn't put them all out. Any corner of the holy mausoleum could house arrays of last breath candles. The throngs of blind corpses would then pounce, and only after the intruder's death would the candle light gradually dim. That is incredibly grim. Like, sometimes I forget how truly grim and like horrific MXTX's writing can be, and then she hits me with something like this. Um, last breath, what an aptly chosen name. Take now, for example, more and more blind corpses had arrived in response to the light, to the point that the tomb corridor was overflowing. Shen Qingque rushed out of the corridor and stole into a room. This hall was much wider and more imposing, and in the center was a coffin placed high up on an altar. Shen Qingque leapt up and tried to throw it open, but it didn't budge. When he tried to hit it again, there was a deep thud, but it still didn't move an inch. To think it was so much more solid than the stone casket he had found himself laying in earlier. Shen Qingque wondered if there was someone inside. He knocked on the lid. Might I take shelter in your honored residence? Um, Shen Qingque, I don't know if that's a wise choice. All the coffin scenes that I've seen up until this point, or read up until this point, I don't think that's a wise choice. I'm so stressed that it's gonna end up being involving his dad. He was just saying whatever, but after he knocked a few times, a voice actually spoke from within the sarcophagus. Oh, great! That's the last thing you want to hear from in there. The voice was clearly coming from the coffin, but it was clear as if the speaker was speaking into Shen Qingque's ear, not muffled at all. Do as you please, the voice said, as if smiling. A corpse come to life can pot kettle. Shen Qingque was terrified. He swept out his leg, knocking a few blind corpses off the stone casket, then in another few steps jumped off the coffin himself and sent a spiritual blast at the ceiling. Loose rubble rolled down. Realizing that the stone of the ceiling was loosening, Shen Qingque continued to send out wild blows. He thought to collapse the ceiling and escape in the confusion, thereby burying both the blind corpse and the revived corpse beneath the rubble. But in the chaos of battle, he suddenly heard a low hiss coming from outside the tomb chamber. Shen Qingque looked up. It was as if two yellow lanterns were lit outside the hall. A pair of huge golden eyes like bronze bells looked his way. Within each eye was a long, slitted pupil, lending them a malevolent air. Oh, that's terrifying. But also, I just realized, like, if this mausoleum is above ground, like he said, wouldn't releasing, like, how should I say it? Opening up ceiling potentially release the blind corpses into the light of day where they can wreak havoc and just kill people at random. Um, okay, where was I? When those blind corpses heard that hiss, it was like they had suffered an incorporeal shock. They stopped in their savage pursuit and hunched their shoulders, heads lowered, huddling in a shivering mess. Those lamp-like eyes held Shenqingqi's gaze for a while before they suddenly disappeared. A moment later, a figure strolled in from outside the hall. Shenqingqi wasn't surprised when he made out the newcomer's form. Shiji, Shiji Lang, I think that's the guy that gave him his blood, right? Zhuge Lang's feet nearly slipped out from under him. He rubbed his nose. Though he felt a bit glum, he didn't misplace his manners. If Immortal Master Shin wishes to call me as such, he may do as he pleases, he said with a smile. So you really were the one who stole my corpse from Chongding Hall? Said Shen Qingqi. The poison that had left those disciples black and blue all over was likely a jade serpent's venom. The fact that Mu Qingfeng had been unable to find injuries during his quick inspection was because the snake's teeth were fine and small, its bites difficult to discern. With a more thorough examination, you would find the imprint of teeth in hidden places like fingertips and heels. That is terrifying. I know that's the place where, like, it's kind of like if you want to murder someone, it's recommended you stick needles into those places because they're hard to see. But yeah, everything happened so suddenly, and I could only resort to that inferior plan," said Zhuge Lang. "I hope Immortal Master Shin will forgive me." Shin Qingqi gave a dry cough. The everything that happened so suddenly could only be referring to the time he used the entire town's supply of regal wine to smoke out Zhuge Lang. Shin Qingqi had even forced him back to his original form and ridden him quite a ways. That's hilarious. You're summoning me to the you're summoning me to the Holy Mausoleum, he said, did resolve a certain troublesome situation I had fallen into. Earlier, you invited me to the demon realm. Now that I'm here, can you tell me what exactly your goal is? I have already explained the first reason to Immortal Master Shin, said Zhuge Lang. A drop of kindness should be repaid with a torrent. As for the second, I was not the one who summoned Immortal Master Shin. It may be best if you ask my lord directly. Mm-hmm. The one I'm very scared of. Very well, where is Tianlan Jun? Asked Shen Qingqi. Zhuge Lang started. I thought Immortal Master Shin and my master had already greeted each other. Greeted each other? Oh, come on, Shen Qingqi, you're smarter than this. Shen Qingqi looked down at that stone coffin. Was the reanimated corpse in there Tianlan Jun? Mm-hmm. Strictly speaking, they hadn't greeted each other, all right. The coffin that he had been unable to pry open no matter his efforts began to shake unceasingly and slowly slid open on its own. A person slowly sat up from inside. The person popped an elbow on the rim of the coffin and tilted his head with a faint smile. Qingjing Peak Lord, it's an honor to meet you at last. Shen Qingqi was stunned. Okay, so the Dilf has apparently made his appearance, and if you guys are wondering whether or not he is valid to be called that, here's an image for you to decide for yourself. I will not judge you. Oh no, this is dangerous. Though this family's interests and hobbies spanned a wide range, they, they managed some coincidental similarities anyway, having the same unique style. The son liked to hold corpses while the dad liked to lie around in coffins. Interesting. Oh, goodness. Damn it. In appearance, Lobingho resembled his mother, Sushiyan, but you could more or less see the shadows of his father in him. For example, in the eyes. Tianlang Jun's eyes were deep set, his brows strong and heroic, the irises dark like fathomless water. In this, he and Lobingho were very much alike. Lobingho had a pretty boy appearance in the first place, but if his eyes had resembled his mother's too, his face would have been extensively feminine, and the effect would be lost. For another example, the smile. Both the father and son's smiles gave Shen Qingque an indiscernible kind of ominous premonition. I have not been the Peak Lord for many years, Shen Qingque cautiously replied. Yes, I have long awaited our meeting, Peak Lord Chen. He just said he hasn't been the Peak Lord for a while already. Tian Nanjun said, all smiles. Shen Qingque felt it down to his bones that one's force of personality could indeed only be determined by family background and upbringing. Putting aside everything else, if you sat both father and son in the same coffin. Okay, just hold on. There's a moth that seems pretty adamant to fly into my hair, and I would prefer if that was not the case. Okay. Um, where was I? Putting aside everything else, if you sat both father and son in the same coffin in the same pose, Tianlan Jun's kingly grace could make said coffin look like an emperor's throne. Lo Binghe, however, though he was handsome, would probably still look like he was sitting in a coffin. No wonder airplane shooting towards the sky had felt threatened and given Tianlan Jun's plotline the decisive axe. Being in the same space as two heirs of the heavenly demon bloodline, with the many dried and not so dried mummies of demon nobles as onlookers, Shen Qingque was under a lot of pressure. Okay, but it is an interesting thought, like how did he suddenly revive and why now, you know? Um, I wouldn't presume, he said with a smile that wouldn't reach his eyes. Since your distinguished self has longed to meet me for such a while, why won't you come out to do so? No matter how much Tianlanjun might want to show off, hanging out in a coffin was a little too much. Unless, unless, unless Tianlanjun couldn't stand. Tianlanjun's hand tapped a slow rhythm on the coffin's rim. His dark irises reflected the dim green flames leaping about the tomb as he spoke in a delighted tone. Of course. Would the Peak Lord assist me? How about no? I don't think that's a good idea. Even if it was a trick, Shen Qingque could only forge on. Shen Qingque. Has your experience with loving her taught you nothing? He leaned forward a bit and stretched out a hand. As you wish. Tiananjun cheerfully took that hand and stood, so he wasn't concealing any weaknesses after all. Shen Qingque was a bit disappointed. Then the weight pulling on his arm disappeared. However, he was clearly still holding Ta Xianjun's forearm. Shen Qingque shifted his gaze downward. He was indeed still holding it, but the forearm was the only thing he was holding. Oh, great! His body parts aren't as connected as they should be. Shen Jingqi's face was blank. Tianlanjun had lost an arm, and one of his sleeves was empty, but he remained polite. Ah, it came off again. Would the Peak Lord please hand that to me? Shen Jingqi said nothing. His hand didn't conduct the trembling of his spirits, and he calmly returned the severed arm to Tianlanjun. He and Juji Lang both wore expressions that suggested this was all normal, and with a click, really, a click, Tianlan Jun snapped the arm back into place. Snapped it back into place! The way he sounds so scandalized. Are you a doll? Your joints can be attached and detached. Just like that? Hey, who knows? Maybe they just have like super advanced prosthetics. Shenjing Chu noticed that the flesh at the severed end, as well as in many other patches upon the arm, had turned violet black, looking especially frightful against Tianlanjun's pale skin. There was even faint dark patches creeping up from beneath his collar. Oh, is his body still deteriorating? Shen Qingque struggled with himself for a while. With the flutter of a butterfly's wing, he had raised more than a mere tidal wave. His initial guess that Zhizhi Lang had used the dew mushroom to create a new body for Tianlanjun had turned out completely correct. Ah, that makes sense. However, it seemed that this dew mushroom body could not provide Tianlanjun with a satisfactory experience. The reason Shen Qingque's soul had meshed well with the dew mushroom was twofold. First, the dew mushroom had been grown using his blood and qi, and second, the dew mushroom was a product of spiritual qi, and Shen Qingque also cultivated with a base of spiritual qi. So his dew mushroom should have been cultivated with demonic qi if it had hoped to house him. Talking about Tianlanjun. That's interesting. Um, in essence, the two were extremely compatible. However, Tianliangjun's situation differed. He was a demon and he cultivated with a base of demonic qi. The dew mushroom naturally reacted by rejecting him, and as expected, it seemed there was no freshness guaranteed on his new body. My brain just went, what if he's planning to make Shen Qingque his new body? Like that level of incest, even though it's not incest, I could not deal with. Please no. Um, so a situation wherein the body had begun deteriorating was entirely possible. Tian Liangjun rotated the reattached limb, then smiled. My apologies. Come to think of it, Peak Lord Shin shares some of the credit in enabling us to leave Bailu Mountain. Shen Jingque looked at Zhu Lang, who still stood silently off to the side. The snake man for the snake man form he possessed back in Bailu Forest had truly been a, a spectacle too awful to behold. Even so, in all the years Tianlanjun had been sealed under Bailu Mountain, Zhujilang had never left its vicinity, and upon obtaining the dew mushroom, he hadn't used it for himself, but created a new body for his master without the slightest hesitation. Is there like a secondary ship going on here? Like between Zhujilang and Tianlanjun? Maybe not. I know generally it seems as if MXTX doesn't have secondary pairings, but yeah, just kind of speculating here. Um, what a paragon of loyalty. Shen Jingque scanned the tomb's murals out of the corners of his eyes as he half-heartedly kept up the conversation. The credit belongs to Shi Zhujilang. He laid low around Bailu Mountain for years until his chance finally came. With such a capable subordinate, Tian Liangjun is someone to be admired. Have you heard my nephew's motto? Asked Tian Liangjun. I have. Oh wait, they're family, never mind. I completely forgot about that. I have. A drop of kindness must be repaid by a torrent, isn't it? Zhi Lang's face was red. turning it an eerie color under the green candlelight. My lord, immortal Master Shin, please do not mock me. That's kind of funny. Shen Qingque had no such intention. He was, at present, turning the bulk of his focus towards the murals. These murals were brightly colored, their brushstrokes wild, but he could tell that the one direction across from the door was a giant woman's face. Her eyes were curved and the corners of her lips turned up, the expression of someone overtaken by joy. Is this Lobinger's mother by any chance? Without a doubt, of the three holy tomb halls of delight, fury, and sorrow, this hall was the hall of delight. Okay, fair enough. Tianlang Jun hadn't noticed anything strange. He's always been like this, somewhat hard-headed and inflexible, so he kept entreating me to bring you here to the demon realm. Shen Qingque still didn't understand this logic. Collecting his thoughts, he gave Zhuge Lang a look. Does bringing me to the demon realm have anything to do with repaying a favor? Of course it does, said Tianlang Jun with ease, because none of the four major sects will be allowed to survive. I don't know, like where this is going. If Peak Lord Shin won't leave a single survivor... Wait, hold on. Sorry, I missed a page. If Peak Lord Shin were still at Tangchong Mountain Sect now, you would be included with them. So obviously he didn't want you to stay there. Oh, how nice of him. Shen Qingque didn't know how to continue this conversation. Just before, he thought this fellow a reasonable sort, but after conversing, he discovered that Tianlang Jun was no different from all those final boss villains who set their hearts on the ambitious life goal of destroying the world and massacring all the heroes. But come to think of it, if a nice young man of noble lineage was sealed under the mountain by a bunch of strange cultivators for many years, it wasn't surprising that he would turn out resentful. Shen Qingque went silent for a moment, then tried to give a cooperative response. Is the next step exterminating the entire human race? Why would you think so? Asked Tianlang Jun, confused. Of course not. I like humans. I just don't like the four major sects. He smiled and added, on the contrary, I have a gift for the human realm. Enslavement? Sorry, I shouldn't judge immediately, but yeah. But it would be interesting to see how Lobingher deals with this because he was so close to becoming like his dad, and now to kind of like have to fight against what his dad wants while still dealing with his own resentment of the four sects would be quite interesting. Um, Though Shen Qingque didn't know what sort of gift this was, it definitely wasn't something you could put a ribbon on and expect to make people happy. A roast was just about to leave Shen Qingque's mouth, somewhat rusty though he was, when suddenly a tremor spread through the whole tomb hall. Sand and pebbles tumbled loose from the ceiling. Even though Shen Qingque was standing firmly, he still swayed back and forth. Do you guys think Lo Binghe just discovered his body's missing? And he even heard a faint and distant sounds of some creature's earth-shaking roar. Alarmed, he said, "What is that?" Tianlan Jun listened closely for a moment. "This is even faster than I anticipated." He turned to Zhuji Lang. "How many?" "At least 200. Tianlan Jun laughed. "Capturing even 10 would be impressive enough. He's gone to some trouble." Shen Qingque didn't understand this exchange, and it didn't look like they were going to loop him in either. Tianlan Jun swept a smattering of dust and sand from his shoulders. "Pico Chen, for 5 years my nephew has been putting his all into helping you make a clean break from Tangchong Mountain sects. What do you think? Will you go with him?" "The abduction is already done. I'm here in this tomb, so why the hell are you asking this now?" Shen Qingque paused. "Wait, 5 years?" A clean break? Shen Qingqu's heart thumped. He blurted out, "The Source in Jinlan City was meant to be a catalyst for a clean break with my sect? Yay, the pieces are coming together." No matter how you thought about it, the reasons he could never return to his sect all stemmed from the events in Jinlang City. "You ordered that so to single me out?" Zhuji Lang lowered his head. Tian Langjun patted his nephew's shoulder as if in encouragement. "That was originally a little experiment to relieve the famine of the southern-born demons, but Peak Lord Shin also happened to be present. Zhuji Lang merely wanted to completely remove Peak Lord Shin's desire to remain in the human realm." Shen Qingque immediately turned a furious glare towards Zhuji Lang. "This is what you call reciprocating in kind? Getting a Soa to slander me? The hell? Of course a snake's way of repaying a favor would be utterly ridiculous." "True. Immortal Master Shin," Zhuji Lang said quietly, "since my lord has said he will eliminate the four major sects, I'm assuming it's going to say will, won't leave a single survivor. This humble one truly hopes that at that time." Shen Qingque shoved down his anger. "Did you bring Xue Haitang too?" "I don't know that name," said Tian Langjun. He looked at Zhuji Lang, and the latter immediately turned to Shen Qingque to clarify. "This humble one did not bring that woman." So had the pincer attack been the Sir's accusation and Xie Haitang's sudden appearance which had forced Shen Qingque to surrender to imprisonment in Hua Palace's water prison really been only a coincidence? Oh, whatever. Now that things had come to this, it probably didn't matter. "What about the other reasons?" asked Shen Qingque. "I indeed had some of my own reasons to summon Peak Lord Shin here," Tian Nanjun replied. He continued slowly. "I must thank Peak Lord Shin for taking exceptional care of that son of mine all these years." Oh, the horror I'm feeling right now. Yeah, now you've done the snake boy. Indeed, he has very much done it. Oh my word. And he just keeps on doing it. That's the worst part. Though Shen Qingque already suspected that Lo Binghe was involved, his heart still clenched. He forcibly collected his thoughts and asked, "Lo Binghe, what does this have to do with him?" Tianlan Jun let out a chuckle and looked down. "How should I start? I discovered that for Peak Lord Shin, the feelings he nurses are especially—" He spoke vaguely and didn't even answer the question, but it wasn't difficult for Shen Qingque to string together an extensive chain of connections. Great, so his dad knows, which is not good because that means he knows his son's weakness. I mean, you'd have to be very blind not to, but still. The longer Tianlang Jun used this body, the stronger his demonic energy became. In turn, the more his cultivation recovered, the more tattered his body became, filling in with those dark patches. Sooner or later, he would need a new body. This body would ideally belong to one of his blood relations. Lo Binghe. He's aiming for Lo Binghe's body, isn't he? A fellow heir of the heavenly demon bloodline. If it contained two separate cultivation systems due to mixed parentage, so much better. Who could be more suitable than Lo Binghe? Great. Shen Qingque squinted. "You summoned my soul to draw him to the holy mausoleum." "Peak Lord Shin understands," Tian Lanjun said. "Lo Binghe has yet to assume the seat you once had," Shen Qingque reminded him. "He can't enter the mausoleum. Even if he wants to, he couldn't." However, Tian Lanjun seemed to have great faith in Lo Binghe. "As long as he wants to enter, he definitely can." Shen Qingque said slowly, "No matter what you want to do, he is still your son. Indeed, your child by Xiang. So?" Now Shinjinchu was sure, in the few words Tianlanjun had said about loving her, though his faint smile had not disappeared, and that pathetic detachment had been evident within his words and expression. This Tianlanjun was far different from the deeply passionate and pacifistic character that Shen Qingque had originally envisioned. When he mentioned Su Shiyan, his voice didn't even tremble. He liked to call loving her the son of mine, but he didn't seem to possess any concept of fatherly affection. Not only was he not a pacifist, he wasn't even someone who believed that love prevailed. That is an interesting thought though, because that means he's very unpredictable. Like we can't he Shen Qingque can't go based off of Shang Qinghua's knowledge of his own work in order to try and solve problems. Not that that should be a surprise, but still. Um, that's a lot of daddy issues. Indeed. Indeed. Um, the thing is that Tianlang Jun was done really dirty. Hmm. We shall see. He had completely toppled Shen Qingque's long-held, one-sided preconceptions. In truth, this was quite normal. Demons were cold and unfeeling when it came to relationships. They were more inclined to the pleasures of good food and the admiration of strength and power. But it shouldn't have amounted to such an utterly uncaring attitude. Shen Qingque was a bit uncomfortable. Loving her was, in fact, someone who was unloved by even his own parents. Yeah. Shen Qingque had always placed the black pot of blame for Jinlang Sati on Luo Binghe's head. It seemed that child had been wronged all this time, and he had attempted to explain himself again and again to no avail. When they had parted not long ago, Shen Qingque had even viciously goaded at him with his words. He was rather dissatisfied with Tianlanjun, but if he thought about it honestly, he hadn't done much better himself. He had hurt Lobingher even more deeply than his father had. This was the critical failure. Yeah, because I don't think he cares about his father's opinion. He doesn't know his father, but he cares about yours. This is what happens when you break the powerful pacifist. I mean, we shall find out. Um, The tomb hall fell into a deathly silence. Only when a second round of tremors descended, accompanied by roars of hundreds of beasts, did their stalemate break. The quakes this time were even fiercer, the force nearly strong enough to collapse everything around them. Shen Jingchu wasn't able to stay upright no matter how steady his footing, and he put one hand on the coffin. Can someone tell me what exactly this? Before he could finish the word this, the gemstone studded ceiling overhead suddenly collapsed, coming down in chunks. All three people inside the tomb reacted quickly and dodged far away. With a deafening thud, something heavy crashed down and landed in the center of the tomb hole. Amidst thick roiling dust and haphazard glints of gems, an enormous black shadow appeared. Loathing her, stood atop a pitch-black giant beast, sable robes fluttering amidst pale dust. Shinmore was partly unsheathed behind him, cutting an imposing figure, and two eyes overflowing with crimson light gazed down, full of murderous intent. At first glance, the giant beast appeared to be some sort of rhinoceros, with a single horn arching from its forehead, curved like a crescent moon. But when it opened its mouth and let out a cry, a giant scarlet python crawled from its blood-red maw. Ooh! The rhinoceros's bellows mixed with the python's hissing shrieks and made for a particularly stunning impression. In the flesh, a black moon rhinoceros python Those were all exclamation marks, by the way. Um, Black plus moon plus rhinoceros plus python. So the black moon rhinoceros python really was just a simple combination of these four elements. Great master airplane shooting towards the skies. Naming sense was as dependable as always. Zhujiang dutifully moved to stand in front of Tianlan Jun, in the process also getting in front of Shen Qingque. Furthermore, as soon as Shen Qingque saw Lu Binghe, he subconsciously scooted closer to Zhujiang's back. It wasn't like he was desperate to avoid Lu Binghe. Am I supposed to believe that? But he had a guilty conscience and didn't have the face to look at him. He dared even less to consider what Lu Binghe might be feeling, having seen Shen Qingque breathe his last breath before his eyes a second time. Oh, so you are aware of that fact that you might have traumatized him even more. He could only unconsciously avoid the issue by not allowing himself to look, pretending that if he couldn't see, he wouldn't be bothered. Tianlang Jun raised an eyebrow. This expression too bore a remarkable resemblance to something Lu Binghe might wear. So he didn't hesitate to capture 200 black moon rhinoceros pythons to break the barrier around the holy mausoleum. Pigluchen, this son of mine, truly goes to extraordinary lengths for you. I wish he would realize it though. Shen Qingque had no retort. This was the rare demonic beast that, in the original work, summoned even the endless abyss with its call. Lu Binghe had gone as far as to capture 200 at once in order to break into the holy mausoleum. Only after the dust settled could Shen Qingque clearly see that Lu Binghe had indeed broken into the holy mausoleum all by himself. To the demon race, the holy mausoleum was both a sacred ground and restricted area. Either one merited reverence from the local demons, so they wouldn't dare commit any violations. This was a question of faith, so no one had dared to come with Lu Binghe. Of course, he could only do it alone. Your courage is commendable, said Tianlan Jun. However, while your coming here is of no great consequence, you shouldn't have brought these two strays. These two strays? Lu Binghe leapt down from the rhinoceros python's head, a dark expression on his face. As if that great beast had exhausted the last of its energy and could continue no longer, it collapsed to the ground with a crash. Lu Binghe fixed an unwavering glare on Shen Qingque, sparks flying from his eyes. He looked furious, yet also as if he was about to cry. I just want to protect him. Shen Qingque suddenly realized that when he'd ducked behind Zhujiang a moment ago, it had looked too much like he was avoiding Lu Binghe again. No, duh! My good sir, are you oblivious? But also, I'm just scared that Lu Binghe is going to be so focused on Shen Qingque that he's not going to see his father for the threat he is. But he didn't have time to explain right now. The person standing beside him was the male lead's dad, the one who even the author had confirmed had a crushing power advantage over the protagonist in all respects. Shen Qingque finally got a sound out of his throat. Go back. Lu Binghe didn't respond. With a flick of his hand, he tossed Shuya over, and only after seeing Shen Qingque catch the sword did he turn to face the other two people in the mausoleum hall. After gathering two fiercely roiling masses of demonic energy in his palms, Lu Binghe's figure flickered and he flung them straight forward. Fighting already? Lu Binghe's left hand smacked into Zhujiang's abdomen, sending him flying without a moment of suspense. His right hand bore down on Tianlang Jun. Shen Qingque went tense, focusing his full attention on the scene. Yet Tianlan Jun caught the blow without retreating even a single step. He flipped his hand and lightly swept it downward, palm brushing against Lu Binghe's shoulder. Shen Qingque swore as he could hear the bones breaking within within Lu Binghe's body. Sorry, I'm stressing now. I'm mixing up my words. As if in confirmation, Lobingher blinked, then without warning, coughed up a mouthful of blood. Great! We're not stressed at all. The entirety of his chin, neck, and chest was stained red, and the blood continued to drip down. Uh, oh, where am I now? Uh, to the ground. Rubicon wiped the corner of his mouth, looking a bit confused. To tell the truth, it had been a long time since he had been injured to the point of spitting blood. Wasn't it laid down in law that the protagonist has OP plot armor? Have we switched to screw the protagonist now that we're done screwing with the reader? Qianlan Jun had given Lobing her only a light tap on the shoulder, but that arm of his came off again. Qianlan Jun furrowed his brow, and Zhuge Lang immediately scooped up the arm and presented it with both hands. Imagine if Shin Jingque is now the one with the plot armor, because he's the protagonist of his own story. Mm. Oh, and I need to. I want to keep reading, but I actually really need to stop. I'll do one more page, and then I think we're just gonna end it for tonight. Um, Rubinha stopped wiping out his blood and reached behind him to grab Shinmore from its place on his back, a dangerous glint flashing through his eyes. That sword is a good blade, remarked Tianlang Jun. It's just a pity that your technique is a hideous mess. Come with me, Rubinha called to Shen Qingche. It's too late, said Zhuge Lang. 200 rhinoceros pythons were sufficient to open the holy mausoleum's barrier for only an instant, just enough to let you in. Then I'll use the two of you as butt sacrifices to open it again. Great, we love that. But who could have expected that before Shinmore fully left its sheath, it would be thrust back inside? At some point, Tianlan Jun had moved to stand behind Luo Binghe, and he pressed the sword back into its sheath with a single finger. That feels so unfair, completely preventing Luo Binghe from drawing it. Lobingher's reaction was also extraordinarily swift. He turned to respond, but no matter how fast he moved, he only ever managed to draw Shinmore 3 inches at most before it was shoved back in. After a few of these exchanges, Tianlan Jin seemed to lose interest in teasing Lobingher, and with a flick of his wrist, he ignored Shinmore and directly pressed down on Lobingher's skull instead. Great. Lobingher's eyes snapped open. A dense cloud of purple-black chi roiled atop his head. Tianlang Jin lifted his hand, took a look at Lobingher's snow-pale face, and commented indifferently, "He looks like his mother." "His eyes look like yours," came a chilly voice from the side. Tianlan Jin slowly turned his head. Cold light glinted off Shuya's blade as it pressed against Zhuge Lang's neck. There we go, Shen Qingque taking control of the situation. Oh, okay, that was a good place to end it. I'm happy with that. Okay, I am quite tired now. I don't know why my eyes are very tired today, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm really happy with the amount of progress we made. We've reached chapter 50. So, not chapter 50, imagine page 50. So yeah, the next live is gonna be on Thursday, same time, and I hope you guys will join me then. And again, that you also enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I will see you guys then. 再见。